I'm a fan of fantasy, so I listen to Easy and Alan on their Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. During the show, you can live chat with Easy and Alan at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. Rumour has it, Lenny only swings one way, with Launch Angle. Now here's Easy and Chris Allen.
And that means it's a Wednesday night at 10 o'clock at the Lenny Melnick FantasySports.com, the Legend Sports Network. I am EZ Kill. Across from me, Mr. Chris Allen. How you doing tonight, Chris?
I cannot complain at all. It's Wednesday. There's a little bit of sports action going on, but plenty of things for us to discuss.
I'm sure we'll ignore that.
Oh, sure. We've got plenty of other things to worry about right now. We've got to figure this league stuff out. Okay. But other than that, I'm doing all right.
Why don't you just dive right in? Oh, no, we got so many more things. Well, then let me ask. I'll throw it to you then. What's the big sporting event or big sports thing you want to discuss? I'll give you you have the microphone.
I would say the big thing that I want to discuss is, the golf tournament that just happened this past weekend. Okay. Despite the fact, Tiger didn't win.
No.
Now, he had a hell of a finish. I thought he put himself back into a respectable position before the end. But I still thought that the tournament was very entertaining. And so I just want to talk about that for a second. I want to get your take on it.
I watched Saturday. And then some things came up Sunday because of Father's Day. And here was the problem. West Coast golf tournament. See, now I'm going to bitch like the West Coast people.
Right, because it ended so late.
Well, and it started about the time, I think the main people teed off at around 3:30-ish, 4 o'clock.
Thereabouts, yeah.
Something like that. Well, Father's Day. Well, and by the way, happy Father's Day week. Let's say that.
Thank you.
Happy Father's Day week. The hell with the day.
Right.
Father's
the whole week.
Yeah. So I always tell my mom, sons are pretty important because we have a day every 6 days. There's 6 days and we have another Sunday.
That's right.
Sons are special. But it did kind of make it for a bad time for the finish of the golf tournament. So I got Saturday. Yeah. We had some rain over the weekend too. So
yeah.
I didn't get to see as much of the ending. Now, because Tiger wasn't in the final group, obviously I got to see a little more Tiger on Sunday.
Sure.
Because of his tee time. But I did get home in time to watch the last few holes. But by then, the guy was ahead by 2 or 3 strokes. And there wasn't a buildup of any final, hole type thing. But
sure.
I enjoyed it. I agree. Tiger again. George Foreman, still the greatest comeback of all time. What are you drinking?
I just got a Monster. That's all.
Oh, a Monster. Oh, that looked like a big green Heineken.
Oh, God, no.
Oh, I'm all about that. I could go grab a big Heine right now. Yeah, there's nothing like a big green Heine.
There are levels to that statement right there, but I'm going to ignore it. They're layers to it.
Only because I'm a Heine guy.
Yes, I realize that.
And right now, the 24 ounces are on sale 2 for $4. And have
you had the ones with zero alcohol in them? Have you tried those yet?
I have.
Our show sponsor was telling me about them, and he said they weren't that bad.
HBYOB.com. We'll throw Mr. Brumley a little, for all your home brewing supplies.
Absolutely.
Here's what I would say. It is one of the better NA beers that I've had, and I've had most of them. I have bought them now a few times, and I'll tell you the reason why. One beer is hard for me. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, meaning usually to drink one with a meal, or something. I don't know. 2 or 3 beers kind of get me through a meal, and I'm a meal beer guy. There are people out there that aren't. There are people that are just beer people and food people, and neither should they mix,
that's not me. I don't normally do like beer at dinner or anything like that.
No, man. Nothing.
That's Joey to like a tea.
Nothing makes pizza and burritos and spaghetti better than 2 or 3 beers. I'm just sorry. I think
spaghetti and beer.
Now I won't do the big heavy, flavored stouts or anything like that.
Oh,
To me,
sure.
that's more of a evening, drink one type thing. But
Mm-hmm.
but what I have found is, because I might be in a situation where I have to drive or something like that, so now I actually have a 6-pack of the 0.0, which is what it's called, I think.
That's what it's called. Oh, okay, I didn't know that's what
I
it's
think
called.
it's 0.0. I have
Okay.
what I've done is I might open 1 or 2 regular Heineken, and I got a couple big, like 24-ounce mugs.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found, if I mix the 0.0 with the regular Heineken, it doesn't water it down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I still kind of get the Heineken flavor, but I'm not getting the alcohol of 2 or 3 beers.
Right.
So if I have to get in a car and drive, or if I'm, in the middle of where I might have to do something. So I've done that a few times. I've gone, oh man, I think I have to go pick up such and such here in a little bit, and we're eating dinner. It'd be nice to have 2 or 3 beers and
A beer flavored drink.
Yeah, beer flavored drink.
Right.
So now by itself, it's pretty watery. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
No, I figured
it is, and I could drink one if I had to, but I'd rather just mix it with a regular. I think Heineken's about 4% or something like that. So I'd rather, I'll take a 2%, over 24 ounces. But
sure.
But one of my participants in the round table, and a listener of our show, JR Slice, he's in the chat room. He sent me some beer from the state of Maine. I have some Bangor Brown American Brown Ale from Maine.
Yeah.
And I also got some Maine maple syrup. I have to tell you, I'm much more excited about the real Maine maple syrup. But
me too.
This would not be the first show together where I have cracked a beer with you. This is.
No, it's not the first.
No, it's not. Nice. It's a dark. A lot of.
Oh, it looks gorgeous.
Oh, there it goes.
Oh, nice.
He was up that I didn't drink it yesterday, because it came FedEx yesterday or the night before, and I was too worried about it still being kind of shaken up yesterday. And I don't think you're legally allowed to ship FedEx.
I'm so jealous right now.
Well, that's fine. So that's a pretty big head. I'll let it sit here a second.
Oh, yeah, you can.
I will give you I know, but you're technically not supposed to. But I've never known anyone get in trouble for shipping a few. So
no.
So there you go. Our first few minutes are, man, that's really holding a pretty big head.
No, Sam, it looks good.
Yeah.
Bangor Brown, huh?
Bangor Brown, 6%. American style brown ale, packaged in Bangor, Maine. So there you go. I have me. He sent me 3 cans, but I think 2 are the same thing, and then there's another one that is an American ale. So
okay.
Thank you, JR Slice, who this week I am competing against in my high-end baseball league.
Mm-hmm.
Right now he's beating me, so I'm kind of upset about that. The other big thing that happened in the meantime, sports-wise, since our last show, is we now have 2 new champions. We have NBA champions from Toronto, who had never won a championship before in the NBA. And we have the St. Louis Blues, who won their first ever championship in the NHL hockey.
Right.
I have to be honest. I watched bits and parts of both championship series, but I didn't dive in and all that. I actually halfway game 6 of the NBA thing, I fell asleep at halftime again. And I struggle basketball. I'm good till halftime.
Right.
I don't know what it is about halftimes of basketball games. They just can't keep me.
Knocks you out, huh?
I don't know what it is. And
wow.
Well, I did miss the final. Now, I wasn't too worried because there's going to be a game 7 there, blah, blah, blah. But no, there wasn't. So I did miss the ending. But
right.
Congratulations to the Toronto Raptors.
We the North.
And the St. Louis Blues. I did watch that. That was a very good last game, but the Blues actually dominated the whole game there. So
Oh yeah, there was not a
that's going to put me in our quick question for you, Mr. NFL expert. So, the year of the first-time championships, there are 12 teams in the NFL that have never won a Super Bowl. So, since we have a precedent set of, never winning a championship before, I mean, obviously the NFL is going to follow suit. So, of these 12 teams, which one would you put your money on? Arizona Cardinals, Atlanta Falcons, Buffalo Bills, Carolina Panthers, Cincinnati Bengals, Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars, the Los Angeles Chargers, Minnesota Vikings, Tennessee Titans. So if we had to assume that the NFL is going to follow suit and, a non-winning team is going to win the Super Bowl, it's going to be one of those 12.
Browns.
The Browns is where you're putting your money?
Yeah, I would say out of all of those teams that you mentioned.
I mean, I think the Browns have talent to do it.
Yeah.
That young talent, that first time, I see them getting into the playoffs and then losing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just hard. It's just hard. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I mean, the easy answer is the Panthers because they've already been there.
I thought that too. And I also, to be honest, I thought the Texans. I mean, the Texans have a decent quarterback coming back. They have probably the number one wide receiver in the league.
Sure.
Health-wise, maybe their running back situation gets a little better. They definitely have one of the better defenses.
Yep.
So that would be one. We have the Vikings, who had a bad year last year, but just a year before.
That's true too. Yeah.
And their team hasn't changed a lot. There's a new coach, but the players haven't changed much. So
one of the best wide receiver duos in the league.
Right, that's true. Right. So I kind of would be more likely to go, if I had to put my money on it, I think I'd be more likely to take the Texans number one out of that group. I think if someone said, hey, you got to bet your house, I think I'd take the Texans over the Browns. And they've been in the playoffs. So the Browns haven't even been in the playoffs in a long time. So it's one of those, you've been on a lot of, you've walked down the hall with a lot of girls, but you're finally, on a date with one.
Haven't done it before.
The movie go down. That doesn't mean you're going to be prepared. I'm just saying. I think I would take the Texans, and after that, the Vikings, and then probably the Browns. Then my Bengals are number 4. I think the Bills would be the bottom. I think
I'd say the Jaguars are probably at the bottom for me.
I think the Jaguars are a little more prepared. They have a running game. They have a few things going, I think. And here's the other team that I think I quickly dismiss, and I look at it, and Atlanta Falcons were just a couple years ago in the Super Bowl.
They were in the Super Bowl. I mean, 27-3.
So, there's a team that's only, they had a bad year last year, but again, not much changed in those 2 years. I understand that, but not much has changed here either. I mean, this team is pretty similar to the one that went to the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's also possible. I'm surprised that they haven't won one, but I guess now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, yeah.
No, I'm just saying these are the 12. So I just found it interesting that, we have, 2 of the, major, sports, 2 teams that have never won it before win it. In baseball, I think it was the Red Sox won it, right? I hate to say it sounds stupid. Yeah. I thought it was the Red Sox last year. But I could be wrong. It is one of those things. I'm not a Yankee fan or a Red Sox fan.
But even thinking back, what was it, 2 seasons ago when the curse was finally broken?
Well, more than 2 years actually. They've won like 4 times over the last 6 years or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And they did break the curse back then. But I don't think their curse was that they had never won. Their curse had been they hadn't won since, like in 100 years or something.
Yeah.
So that's a little different.
In our lifetimes.
Right. And the same with like the Cubs. I don't think the Cubs had won in like 100 years.
Right.
It wasn't that they had never won. That's the problem in baseball. It's harder in baseball because baseball's been around so much longer.
Yeah, you'd think that almost every franchise has won one at least at some point.
Now I say that NFL is probably the shortest amount of time, only because not because the league hasn't been around, but it's because they didn't have a Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah.
Because if we go championships, then obviously the Browns have won one. If we're talking NFL championships,
right? Yeah.
Which is technically what we're talking with hockey and basketball. Those are championships. So
true.
They just have never won the Super Bowl.
Right. They're not world champions.
Right. But technically they were the best team in their thing. So that would go. And now if we're going to do that, I think the Detroit Lions have also won a championship.
Oh, wow. When did they do that? 40s?
I think back in the 40s. I'm pretty sure, George Halas and all that, when, coaching them and all that, I'm pretty sure they've won.
When like the original Ford owned them?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think they're one of the first 6 teams. They might have won it the first 8 years because there's only 6 teams or something there or whatever. Now, looking at this, so most of these other teams are not original teams.
Right.
So as far as age goes, the Lions and the Bears. Well, wait a minute. The Bears aren't on here. I don't know why I brought up the Bears. The Bears aren't even on here. I think I was just thinking Lions, but Lions have been around. I'd have to look and see if they won back in the day.
That'd be worth checking into. I don't remember. I don't know or not.
Right. Yeah, I'd have to look. Because the Bears won back in the 80s. I mean, the Bears were with Ditka and that with the refrigerator Perry and all that. So I know they won. So
when Ditka was still playing or when he was coaching?
Ditka was the coach.
Okay.
Ditka was the head coach, and what's his name was the assistant coach, who's now kids are all coaches, or at least now I think they've been fired now.
Which one? Schottenheimer?
The two brothers. The two big brothers. The one coached the Bills for a long time and the Jets.
Parcells?
No.
No. That one that had all the kids in it. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, the one his brother was like the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, long hair.
Ryan.
I can't think of the name.
Yeah,
but their dad, that's the one, because that was a big deal. They won the Super Bowl that year because their defense, and if you remember, they carried off the defensive coordinator on top of their shoulder, not Ditka.
Yeah, the one that has one of them has the long hair.
Ryan.
Yeah, Buddy Ryan. Yeah, right. Rex and
you know what? One of these days we should do a sports show. Something we know about. That's I just don't. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I don't remember. I can picture people. I just struggle with names.
I can picture the guys, the shoulder length white hair.
But that one's the least famous, but the one that you could picture the most. But the other one coached the Jets and the Bills for a long time.
Yeah, he has a foot fetish.
And
I remember him.
Right, the foot fetish. And now he's on ESPN or one of the networks.
Still with the foot fetish.
Yeah. It's funny that's what he's known for. Okay, wait a minute, Chris. My head has subsided. It's very
some good lacing, though.
Very dark.
Oh, yeah, that looks good.
I can smell some chocolate, little nuttiness.
Oh,
this could be an award-winning brew.
I know about those. I know about award-winning brews, man. Know all about those.
It's not bad. It's actually got a little bit of a stout taste, even though it's an ale.
Yeah, it probably has a biscuity type of flavor to it, nutty, biscuity type.
A crispiness to it.
Oh, now I want one. I'm so jealous right now.
You need to come on the round table, maybe. Need to get you on the round table.
Getting out of state brews is just the thing that I do anytime that anytime that I travel somewhere.
That is the thing that you do.
Oh yeah, out of state brews.
There you go. So if I had an out of state brew question, you'd know the answer. Who was the defensive coordinator for the winning Chicago Bears? That we had no clue. But that's all right. We don't care, do we?
No, we don't care.
Who are we here for, Chris? thank you all for listening. But me and Chris are here for us. I don't. I think that's not right. I don't think you're supposed to say that, right? I mean, out loud. I don't think out loud I'm supposed to say that we're only here for ourselves.
Probably not.
Okay, never mind. Rewind that.
We're here to have fun,
right?
And then
We'll edit that out. I trashed somebody on the air last night.
Oh, see, you're so rude.
And then that listener texted me back about it, and I told him, I said, I have a very strict policy about trashing listeners live on the air, so it was his fault for listening.
You're so rude.
I'm just saying, it was definitely his fault for listening.
Oh my gosh!
If he hadn't listened, then I would have been in violation of trashing my listeners.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all right. I'm like I said, I'm entertaining myself. I have a beer. We've talked to sports. Thank you for coming. We can call it a night. We can call it a night.
That's it. We're done.
Here we go. Thank you. Good night. Right.
Wait for part 7 of the League Settings podcast.
No, it's part 5. Part 5. And I've done a little research. We're probably going to have to finish this tonight and next week.
Yeah. So we can start filling it in July. Well,
the first couple weeks of July, I have some vacation issues, so we'll have to talk. We may not, unfortunately, we might have to. I'm going to be available, I think, but not confirmed. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm not going anywhere, but we have some plans, and I'm just saying. So yes, we'll get into that right now. The perfect league settings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We are definitely starting much earlier now. So obviously we
got 20 minutes in. Look at that.
We have definitely missed some important stuff, I'm guessing.
That's not possible.
So the Lions were champions in 35, 52, 53, and 57. So obviously, Detroit has won a championship. They just haven't won a Super Bowl.
Since the merger.
Right. Since the merger. Well, no, the merger came. Now that I think, I mean, there was an AFC and NFC for a while, I guess. So there were both leagues. They just didn't play each other till the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was the first time. And now, do you know who was in the first Super Bowl? Let's just test you.
If I name one of the teams,
I'll give you credit for one.
It was Green Bay.
That's easy, right? That's the easy one.
Yeah.
So the Green Bay was from the old, the old school. So who was
I forget who the other team was.
All right, Kansas City Chiefs. I'm almost.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Kansas City Chiefs. Because then the next year I think it also was Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to look back. I don't think Namath. I think Namath won it, which was the first year the AFC won it. Was the third Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe Kevin. Kevin is smart. Kevin's in Hawaii. He's figured something out.
He knows these things,
right.
Man.
I mean, if you're going to trust anybody, you got to trust an Uber driver from Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying. So he's saying the Chiefs. So I knew I was right on the first one. I knew it was the Chiefs. The Raiders were the AFC team in the second. So I know Joe Namath was the third.
Okay.
But Joe Namath, was it Packers in the first 3? I know the Packers and the Chiefs. And I'm almost positive the Packers were in the second one. So who did the Jets beat? I don't know. Again, Chris, if we ever decide to do a sports show, we're going to have to study. I'm going to have to
do my research.
Yeah. You know what would be awesome? If there was something small, something that didn't take a lot of power, fit in your hands. The Colts. Yes, I knew that. So it was, it was Green Bay Colts.
Okay.
Right. Because that was
that is way before my time.
Yeah. Well, no, I watched those. I'm old enough to have watched them.
Yeah, that's before my time, not your time.
Right. So I do remember George Blanda. So George Blanda would have been the second Super Bowl. That he was the big Raiders guy back then. And then Namath. I remember not rooting for Namath. I was rooting for the Colts. And then Green Bay obviously had Bart Starr, who just passed away a few weeks ago. We lost.
Yep. Yeah, I remember seeing that come across Twitter. Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Doug. Those two should do a sports show. Those two,
they know things.
They know stuff.
Yeah.
When they come on the round table, they do it just to make me look bad.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, they're making me look bad. I mean, I'm supposed to be the NFL expert. I'm an expert. We should caveat it as like asterisk expert on current things.
I'm going to go by the FF. You know what? You use the FF in front. So you're the
FF, not NFL.
Football. Right. You weren't playing fantasy football back then. So
I wasn't even alive.
Right. I'll give you that. Roman Gabriel. Where was Roman Gabriel? I think he was a Charger, if I recall him, because he played for the Chargers back when their helmets were blue and white. The Rams horns were white. See, Chris, that's how far back I go.
Those are I've seen pictures of those. But
well, they've done throwback jerseys and they've worn those blue and white helmets.
The blue and white ones? I thought it was blue and yellow.
They've worn. No, there were blue and yellow. That's not even older Rams. That's just older Rams.
Wow. No, I thought the throwback were blue and yellow.
There was white and blue. So I do remember that. But all right, let's get into we still killed 5 more minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's what we do. And I feel bad if we don't read over what we have already for our new listeners. I feel we have to. Sometimes we get stuck and we debate shit we already debated, 2 shows ago. But the perfect fantasy football league. These are the settings we've come up with. Roughly 10 to 12 players. Less in a competitive league, more in a home league. We have decided you have to use one of the top sites. Buy-in needs to be on the minimum $50 to $100. We prefer some type of a weekly payout to keep people interested. We decided the PPR format. We decided the league, to be the perfect league, you need some hardware. You need to have some kind of a trophy or an award besides monetary. And again, we're still looking into shipping stuff to Hawaii, but so we've decided that the drafting slots would be picked based on a random selection. So then the player based on that would decide when he picks. We decided snake draft orientation. We decided on a single commissioner. Should be volunteers and then voted if there's more than one volunteer.
Right.
League voting structure we talked about. Before the season, rules should be set and voted on. Before the season, it should be a majority vote wins.
Yes.
After the season, if it's that important, needs to be 100% unanimous.
Yes.
So if there's something that comes up in the middle of the league, and those are the kind of things we talk about that need to be in writing.
Yeah.
So if something comes up and says, well, I think we should vote on that. I don't care. I know it's week 3, but it's bullshit. Okay, we'll vote on it. But if we can't get 100%, we're not changing it.
Like the Le'Veon Bell situation.
Meaning everyone has to agree. Yeah. So then we decided the one quarterback, one's in a super flex spot was what we decided in a home league, but we felt in a competitive league, especially if it's only a 10-team league, we thought a 2 QB instead of the super flex. 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 standard flex, which is the running back, wide receiver, tight end.
Yep.
We talked about it and debated, but we decided we feel that kicker and defense needs to be part of it.
Yep.
Bench spots, we pretty much said roughly 5 to 6 with an IR, maybe 7 and no IR. It's kind of the same thing, but I really haven't thought much through. Does it matter if it's an IR spot or just an extra bench spot?
I could go either way.
We decided there should be no roster minimums or maximums. So there should be no roster minimum or maximums, but you must have a full roster. So you have to have a kicker and a defense. So even though we say there's no men, if you don't want to pick one up, that's fine, but you would forfeit that week if you didn't have one. But at the same time, you don't have to have one until, at a minimum, the last day would be Monday. You'd have to have one Monday night at some point during the week, you had to have at least had a kicker, a defense, and one of every spot on your bed, somewhere on your team. We decided that we want to do FAB as our waiver process. I know we didn't talk about it, but I don't think it matters, $100 or $1,000. Back to, we like points, so I feel we should have money. I kind of penciled in $1,000, meaning we set this up to score a lot of points. Well, we should spend lots of money buying people.
Yeah, and I think most of the strategy around using FAB dollars goes to percentages anyway. So people normally say 5% of your FAB, 10% of your FAB.
You could make it $1 million. Just
if you want to.
Zeros. Right. If you want to act like you're real management people, put some zeros on there.
Sure.
So now something we didn't talk about, so I jotted down, and it was discussed on a few other shows. And I think actually Doug, who's in the chat room, is the one who brought it up. And that's because at first I thought he was wrong, or I shouldn't say I thought he was wrong. I thought it was more common to allow $0 bids, meaning if you have a FAB, allow $0 bids. So if somebody, needs to, they still can pick up people. But like Doug says, it's a management game. You need to make sure you have a few bucks left for the playoffs. I mean, that's on you. Meaning if it's a good competitive league, maybe you should have $1 minimum as the bid. Meaning if you blew your money, that's on you. So if you can't pick up a kicker defense because they're on bye or the kicker got hurt and you're now in the playoffs, that would be on you. I do like thinking that through. Now, maybe in a home league, you don't do it. In a competitive league, I think that adds another strategy / management, thing that has to be tracked and followed. So I kind of like the idea that you don't have $0 bids. You have a $1 minimum bid, meaning you have to bid something. So you need to hold back a little bit. You just can't throw all your money at one player. So you have to hold a little bit. So I actually, I have that written down that we discuss it. It sounds like we're on the same page there.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So that's the settings we have right now. Pretty much, pretty much the basic settings. And like I said, and I know, and part of this is, all this should be in writing if you're starting a league for the first time. So I have a couple places we need to go. We still haven't got into individually scoring, which we will hear in a second. But I felt, because it came up last week when we were talking, I didn't even think of that. And that would come down to, I think that we want to do this because to me, the scoring would be the last thing. And then the last thing after the last thing would be then just weird or, little bylaws that that we just think would work. But I think right now we're to the point where we're close enough now that we might, want to have people in this league. So what kind of rules or do you need rules on how to determine your owners? You know what I'm saying? I mean, part of me feels in the perfect league, you got to have players that are, the league rules don't mean anything. You got a bunch of, imbeciles in the league. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I wanted to go first tonight, which is, how do you, what's the best way or not even way? Okay, let's do this first. Once you decide you're going to have a league and you come up with, I'm assuming at a minimum, unfortunately, that's the hard part. Yeah, you almost always have to start with 2 or 3 people, even to know if you're going to have, enough people or interest to have a league.
Right.
But do you just let anybody in, or does the entrance into your league need to be either voted on or at a minimum acknowledged? Meaning just to see, we do it because we have this problem right now in our home league. The commissioner keeps, the last few years when we've needed one player here or there, he just finds another one of his buddies.
Okay.
No one else knows the guy, but it's his buddy. So when trading starts going on and everything, well, this guy doesn't know anybody, so he only trades with that guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
so it looks lopsided.
We have actually decided this year that no, if anyone's gonna, when we need a new person, we're not just gonna say, oh, I asked Bobby, he said yes, so he's in the league. So that's my first question. Do you need something in the bylaws or in your rules that more or less says how or who gets in this league?
I think to a certain extent, like even if, so let's say the commissioner, they might be the one to go out and find the person, but I think that person needs to meet like a certain set of criteria. So like as we were talking about earlier, with the type of people we want in the league, if we want it to be a semi-competitive league, then they have to meet, some certain expectations. Like, will they be active on the waiver wire? Will they at least try and make some trades or be open to making trades? So those types of general questions, I think the commissioner should have to ask the person that they're going to bring into the league. And if they answer yes to those questions, then sure, come on in. But I think at least they have to ask or find out what their level of interest in fantasy football is. And if they are, pretty big into it, then they can be a part of the league.
Because Andrea's even saying in the chat room, how do you even go about vetting someone?
Yeah.
What qualifications, do you go by? I guess to me, unfortunately, this has to be in my mind answered two different ways. If this is the first time you're putting together a home league, you want to make it good, you do need to ask a few people. Obviously, you're not going to start the league if you don't already have a few people interested.
Yeah.
And the odds are those first few people are interested because they've either, already been involved. Most of the home leagues I've been involved, I wasn't the first person asked. There was other people, and then they say, hey, we know Mark plays, so you have to go that route. But so if it's a first time league and it's a home league, obviously the first few people are probably just going to be people that just, there isn't qualifications other than knew the guy starting the league. But at the same point, if I'm starting a home league and I get 4 or 5 people together that I know are already good players, then I think it's my responsibility as either the commissioner or the person, at least at a minimum, starting the league. And that may be 2 different people. I might say, hey, I'm going to get a league together, but maybe we need to vote on the commissioner, or if someone's else willing to commission, that's fine. But I think after you get the first core together, then I think you need to pay attention to the other people you ask and try to keep them in the same qualifications of the 4 or 5 that are already in it. Meaning, people that don't know anything, but at the same time, so I think it is hard in a home league because in most cases, and I've been in home leagues where it's just family, Uncle Bob.
You want to play? Come on.
Yeah. But in a league that's competitive, that we're putting together with industry people or people that we would, that we know are invested in the sport or the game already, the hobby, whatever you want to call it. Then that's a little different thing, What do you ask? How are you determining? Are you just doing it? Because again, I know there are experts out there that are less expert than others. There's people in there that want to just be in leagues with people that have shows so they can get their name talked about. Yeah. And that type thing. So
the other way that we've done it before is we've asked other players or people trying to get into the league what they do in other leagues, like either how they've done, like if they've won the league, if they make it to the playoffs, that sort of thing. And also what their level of activity. So not even trying to see if they're the ones that wind up winning it, but just how they operate in the league. And also what their level of interest in just the NFL is. Do they watch all the games on Sundays? Do they just watch the Sunday night game? Do they catch the Thursday night games? Do they just watch the primetime games? What's their interest in DFS? Do they like betting on the games? I mean, so some of the other pieces that are outside of fantasy football, but just kind of feed into the sport that we're watching to begin with.
And do they have a show? Do they have a podcast? Do they do something? Can we, which is back to, again, we started this 5 weeks ago just to do a general thing. And obviously now I've had at least 10 people now ask, on this league you guys are talking about, is this going to really happen? Because that would be my first thing. Let's say this goes off. Let's say we decide to make, we take this, we make a league, obviously participation in the chat room, Hawaii, Kevin, knew the first Super Bowl people. I mean, that means
he has to be in. I mean, that's what that goes without question. He has to be in. I will give up my spot to have him in.
Right. Now Doug knows a lot, but he's not a football guy. Does that make sense? Doug doesn't do much fantasy football. He's a baseball guy, but he does follow sports. So he also knew some questions, but that'd be the point. If you just watch the chat room, that we're on email@fantasysports.com. If that's our criteria, maybe for this league, in the chat room, you would go, man, Doug knows a lot about football. Doug knows. But I also have already talked to Doug. Doug would be the first to tell you, I don't know much about fantasy football, So, just because someone knows a lot doesn't necessarily mean they're a fantasy player either,
Right.
So, but I think that person would keep himself out. If you said, hey, we're putting together a good competitive league, it's going to be $100 buy-in. I
probably wouldn't hop in the league to begin with.
Sometimes the buy-in does become the criteria. Sometimes $100 is enough for somebody to go, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not going to
$100.
Right. So Doug said he watched 2 games last year. Were either one of them the Super Bowl, Doug? That would be the only question.
The Super Bowl, I would assume, has to be.
If you only watch 2 games, would it be a Super Bowl game?
Yeah.
So, and then Andrea's talking right about people acting like they're commissioner, but see, and that's my point. Even a commissioner, if the league wants to vote on a commissioner, I think if you're starting the perfect league, regardless who starts it, I don't have a problem with you throw out, hey, is anyone else, are any of these 10 or 12 people interested in being the commissioner?
Right.
Because if it's a league for the people, just because I start the league doesn't mean I should be commissioner. So if 4 people say, hey, I think I'd be interested, I'd like to, okay, then fine. Then now you vote, or you do something and you try to come up with the right person. So,
right.
Bears, Packers, Jags, and Bucks. Well, gee, there you go. There's one of the Bears Packers game was the good one. Wasn't that like week 1?
Yeah,
week
where Rodgers jacked his knee up. Within the first 2 minutes.
Came back in and scored like 3 more touchdowns.
Because he was high on painkillers. You saw the interview he had after the game was over and they won. He was so high.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't seen a quarterback that high since Joe Namath got interviewed at one of the Super Bowl games where he was hitting on the lady reporter. That was, he wasn't feeling any pain that night, Mr. Namath. No. So, all right. So, I do agree. If the league is established, though, and you've been going 5 or 6 years, which is kind of where this started. Unfortunately, when you're first starting the league, things change a little bit because you don't have too many options. But in a good league, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, I think it's important that whoever comes in, and to be honest, whoever goes out, meaning if someone's leaving the league, it better not be because the commissioner said we don't want you anymore. Meaning, I don't think a person, back to the same thing. If we're deciding there's a player that an owner that shouldn't be in the league, it should be a league decision,
right?
Not just one person going, hey, I just told him he couldn't play anymore. He's terrible. Again, we have had that happen in our home league. Our 6-year-old home league. The commissioner more or less didn't ask a person back because
well, that's rude.
Well, it was rude, but also here's the problem. He also wasn't a person he knew. So back same thing. That guy was only trading, doing deals with other people and wouldn't do it with him. Yeah. And he dropped that guy and then picked up a buddy he knew that no one else knew. So, that's the whole point. If you're going to start up a league or the league's already started, I think it's important to realize that the commissioner doesn't run the league, the owners do. You know? So
that's what it should be.
Exactly. But they don't think that. Not all commissioners think that way. They think because I'm the commissioner, if I want this guy in the league, I'm gonna let him in. But it shouldn't be that way. I think the owners should have some say or whatever. And I think
100%.
That's what I'm saying. I think it needs to be in your bylaws that once the league's established, new ownership should be, I'm not going to use the word voted on, but should at least at a minimum be discussed.
Yeah.
And then if the discussion goes wrong or is in, if you have half and half, well, then you vote,
Yeah.
And if we all sit around and talk about Uncle Bob and we go, Uncle Bob really does know football. Uncle Bob, blah, 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 and everyone's telling you, say, all right, we'll just let Uncle Bob in. You don't necessarily have to have the vote. But if half the people are going, Uncle Bob's an idiot, and the others, well, but we like Uncle Bob,
Right.
Vote on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it this way. You could look at it like from two extremes. It could be like, on the one extreme, you have somebody like the commissioner invites his buddy just because he likes him. The guy just he auto drafts most of his team, doesn't make any waiver wire pickups. He's constantly having to hound him, and then he just makes the league boring because he's just soaking up players on his bench and all that other stuff. Right. On the other hand, you could wind up with this big time analyst. Like, what if the commissioner is like friends or he went to college with like Evan Silva, something like that.
Right.
And then he gets invited to your league. And then, now it becomes an ultra competitive league because you're playing against, one of the best analysts out there.
And one person can make it that way.
And they can. Yeah. And so that's where you need to have that discussion as to what type of player are you looking for in your league. So that has to be discussed.
Right. Because some leagues, especially the perfect home league, some of them want to keep it, I'll use the word down low. They don't want that.
Casual.
They don't mind that everyone gradually got better.
No. But they want it to be fun. They want it to be casual.
And they don't want it to jump so far that, boom, all of a sudden, now it's not fun because there's one guy. And unfortunately, my home league's gotten that way. But it's not one guy. There's 4 or 5 of us that now have taken it to a different level. And there's still 3 or 4 guys that are like, hey, I just wanted to do this for fun.
Right.
Now, to me, it's not fun, but it's fun at the level I want to be at. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's fun. It's fun for me to be that competitive. It's fun for me to do that much homework. It's fun for me to, and like I said, and right now, I mean, actually our big league meetings in 2 weeks, and that's part of what we're discussing. We're down 2 players again. Because we lost the 2 people who think our league is too competitive, so they're leaving. I don't know what to tell them. You're not going to make me less competitive. That's so if I'm ruining the league,
I know.
But I've also upped the whole level of the league. I've been in the Super Bowl 3 years in a row.
Humble brag.
So, well, I've only won it once though. But my point is, they, and I have had a few people say, "Well, you just take this way more serious than I do." I don't even say the word serious. I just take it. It's a game, and I'm trying to play it, to the best of my ability. I don't, I don't look at it any wrong way or anything different than that. But I guess all I'm saying is, in your bylaws somewhere, you need to have ownership. I don't even know the word. The owners that you pick and or the owners that you remove needs to be a league decision based on some kind of criteria. And I agree with Andrea out there. That is the hard part. What criteria is it? If it's a home league, if it's, not like you said, not over competitive, then you need to make sure that's who you bring in. If it's a league with people that are supposedly in the industry and or in the know, well, then it might not matter as much. But then you don't want to ask somebody who doesn't know anything to be in that league.
Right.
Hey, we got one more spot and I need to fill it because the draft's in 2 days. And then you're getting somebody that shouldn't be in the league anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's other people, though, that go, I don't care. As long as he's got $100, so I don't care if he knows anything. Put him in the league. You know what I'm saying? But,
it could be Matthew Berry. I don't even care.
Yeah. Well, or the other way. It could be someone who doesn't. It could be Doug who doesn't play fantasy football. They don't care. Just put somebody in there. Unfortunately, both can ruin a league. A league can be ruined by someone who's way better and way more competitive than anyone else. And a league can be ruined by 1 or 2 people who just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Both can ruin leagues. And that's why, to me, that's an important thing to put in your bylaws somewhere is maybe not the first year, maybe not even the second year, because you're trying to get it started. But at some point, it needs to be written that, hey, new people coming and going can't just be, you can't just remove an owner and you can't just bring in an owner without some kind of a conversation with the owner.
Agreed.
So, that's kind of where I'm at on that, which again takes 20 minutes to discuss one thing. That's why we can't ever get past. Right. And again, I get hollered at because my round table's too long. We had that discussion last night on the round table. Why I'm having trouble getting guests like I used to get. And a few people brought up that, well, it's because the shows last too long. They last 2 hours or 3 hours. But I've learned. Is that it? I don't even know if learned is a word. I have kind of paid attention in a lot of these conversations, especially in fantasy, with people where you're just it sometimes takes an hour to get people loosened up to where they're comfortable talking about things. Meaning,
sure,
the first hour is just blah 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 blah. And by the time you're in the second hour, people who weren't talking at all, now you can't shut them up. They've now, so that's what's nice about the round table, and that's why I hate putting so right now we are putting like a 2 hour time limit on it. We've kind of gone away from the 3 hour stuff, but right. Andrea never was good for 2 hours. When Andrea was on the shows, we were always 3 hours or more. But
I've done shows like that, and my goodness, like I need like coffee or something like that. But
here's my thing, and maybe it's my fault because at the end of a 3 hour show, I'm even upset I'm hanging up. I'm like, man, this was a blast. Because again, if you're staying into it for 3 hours, it's because the conversation and or the topic was interesting.
Of course, yeah.
Which is back to us. We can come up with one topic and one thing, and
it'll take us 50 minutes in order to get there.
But that's why we're doing this for you, our listener. We're doing it. Me and you were having this conversation, so all they have to do is write it down. And when we're done, I'll publicize this little pamphlet here with our.
Well, we need to do the writing. The only thing they have to do is read it.
That's
right. We're putting together all the bylaws and all that stuff.
Right.
The only thing that they have to do is read it.
Right. There you go. A fantasy fan league settings, the bylaws, the commandments. I'm gonna have to get my little flame in the background when we finally nip this in the butt. we will, and Andrea's been gone. We've missed Andrea. I don't know.
She has been.
I don't even know. Andrea, are you home? She's in the chat room. Because I know Lenny hasn't been on the show in the mornings, and I've seen pictures of Lenny in a motel. And I know Andrea was on the West Coast a week ago, so I don't know where the hell they are now, but she's obviously in the chat room tonight. So I don't know if she's in a motel or in New York City, but we've missed you, Andrea. So
absolutely.
But Andrea, when Andrea comes on the round table, the problem is we'll be on for like an hour and 45 minutes, and then Andrea comes in, and then we know, okay, we're in trouble because Andrea's gonna, Andrea will keep going. Andrea likes to stay up later, so. My beer's good. I'm just letting you know.
I would hope so.
There's nothing like good old Maine beer. I think in Maine, you probably have their brewing season probably, Okay, she just got home. They were in Oswego. How do you pronounce that? Oswego.
Oswego.
Oswego sounds like someplace like in New Mexico.
Oswego?
I'm the sheriff of Oswego.
Oswego?
I don't know.
I've never been there before. I don't even know where that's at. Couldn't point it out on a map. Couldn't do it.
All right, me neither. I took a motorcycle up on the East Coast all over. We went through northern New York twice. Northern New York is beautiful.
That's what I've heard.
We actually even went up all the way to Lake Placid. We were there in the fall. I mean, there was no snow or anything, but really, really a neat area. So it was Oswego, like in
Oswego.
Oswego, New York.
Oswego?
I know. Osweego is how she's pronouncing it.
Okay.
He goes to college there. Lake Ontario, is that the college or it's on Lake Ontario? And I hope Mark did okay. I know I've kind of heard little rumors. I hope Mark's I have teenage kids. I know how it is, Andrea. So I do know what you're going through there also, but good luck. And now we're back to What? I guess we're going to have to do one show with scoring, so we'll just do that next week. Next week we're going to do nothing but scoring. I promise. So, but before we are done here in the next 5 minutes, is there anything we've missed? We've kind of covered a lot as far as that. Is there anything? What about naming the league? I know that doesn't sound important, and it could be, but it's the same thing. If you're going to name the league, who names the league? The commissioner? I mean, is it just I've started it. Someone else might be the commissioner, but this is going to be called the Fantasy Fan League or whatever. But
I think it should just be a group thing, because I don't know, like for me, when it comes to fantasy, like naming anything, so naming the league, naming your team, right. Well, I can't do the corny stuff. Right.
Well, but it's like the Fish Bowl, you know, and some of the big leagues that are, you know, in the industry, they're named after certain things or represent certain people or organizations and that kind of stuff. So, you know, obviously, if this one comes together, we got to have our show name in it somewhere, or no one would know. You know, if you're going to win a trophy, you know, and it's a trophy for a show, you know, we want to, we want to make sure that, that if we're going to send a trophy all the way to Hawaii, it better have our damn name of the show on it. That's all.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I want people to know in Hawaii.
A Fantasy Fan Sportscast Fantasy League.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get that out there. You know, the Chris and Mark Invitational.
I like it. I like it.
This league won't be easy.
Invitational. I like
Fantasy Fan Invitational. Chris, write that down somewhere. A Fantasy Fan Invitational.
I have a pen.
Oh my God. All right. So there we go. We got a name already. Somebody
remember that.
Somebody remember that. The next thing, the only other thing I had that I was going to put in the little odds and ends, but we'll do it now, and that is banking. Mm-hmm. Doesn't sound important when you're first starting a league, but all of a sudden people start looking around going, we just gave this guy we don't know $1,200. Are two things. I've never been in a league where I didn't trust the guy, so I've just given money, and I've never played in a league that had a vault, or I shouldn't say that. Maybe someone, now that I think about it, maybe I did do one where I had to. Does Fantrax have a vault where you can pay through their system and they take a percentage?
Mm-mm.
They don't.
No, we don't use them over there. At least I don't think so. I
have played in some league, and I think it was last year that, you know, when I joined the league, it came up and said you need to pay your dues, and I clicked some link and it came right up through there, you know, through the website. I'd have bet money it was Fantrax, but I could be wrong.
MFL does that where they have at least an affiliation with League Safe. And I think also Yahoo has the option. It's not, you don't force you to do it, but you have the option for you to put your stuff through like a third party account.
The key to that, though, as a league and you're putting the league together, is you got to realize when you use a bank, the bank's taking a cut. You know, and some people don't like that the bank, you know, is getting 10% of your $1,200 or whatever and didn't do anything versus trusting the guy. Because I am a believer in that the payment needs to be made ahead of time. I know a lot of long time leagues where people knew each other and, you know, when the league's over, everybody can, you know, send Bob the $100. I think that's hard to do in leagues nowadays because of I think that was more common when the league was in a bar or the league was, you know,
casual home league, that type of thing.
Yeah. Where you see everybody. Nowadays, that's a little harder.
With the internet and all that, and people doing leagues with people from Hawaii and Ohio,
which Kevin
makes a little difference.
Kevin said he's really happy knowing that we're already planning on the winter being in Hawaii. But maybe Kevin doesn't realize we might have 4 or 5 other good listeners.
Bingo.
Right. So Kevin, you don't know. Andrea says League Safe takes no cut.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So, well, that's kind of, so then why are they doing it? Or do they just, are they getting 6 months of interest on the money or something? I mean,
I have no idea how the service, I don't know if or how the service is profitable, but I'm pretty sure that for them, they track all the money that comes in, like when people make payments, who makes payments, if all of the league has paid, if the league is paid in full based off of the number of deposits it's received, it tracks all that stuff. And then the commissioner has I guess they have the power to go in and just say, well, if this person won, then send the money to that person.
So and so. I got you. And is it paid by PayPal? I mean, I'm even curious. I mean, do you pay it by PayPal, or how do you, or you can, I'm sure, just deposit with a credit card number or something?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, either way. I think it still accepts PayPal.
Which again, I would have trouble wondering, what I know about, banking and business. If you take credit card payments for money like that, there's a percentage that's given to the credit card company. So League Safe would have to be
I
paying
don't know the
that.
inner workings of that stuff. I would assume that it does take a pay cut, but if Andrew's saying
that she thinks there's fees for extra services, like our league, I want to have, like I said, we've already discussed where we'd like to have a weekly payout. And it might say, okay, meaning it's free if everyone puts in their money before draft day and no one takes it out until after the Super Bowl, which means they sat on your money for 5 months, 6 months. It's quite a long time to be sitting on somebody else's money that you can invest and turn into a little bit of a profit, maybe. But that would also tell me that's risky. I mean, if they're investing our money, then there's a chance our money's not there. That's not safe. So,
right.
And I know banks don't pay that much interest, but maybe they do pay out different ways. Like if we said, if we wanted to have a weekly payout, or something like that, maybe that's decided. I'm going to look into it. Because it's like this league, if the Fantasy Fan Invitational, where fantasy football is not easy, I would not like to hold the money. I'm an honest, trustworthy person, but at the same time, I don't want people to have an issue. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I would rather, and I think anybody, if you have some option like this, again, a home league's different. Give all the money to grandma, or like you said, you know what? At Thanksgiving the next year, everybody can look and say, Bob, you never paid me last year when I won the damn Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing. But if you're in a league with something like this, where you don't know everybody other than through chat rooms, stuff like that, I think some kind of a payment service would be a good thing. So I don't think, and again, you say if you set up through Yahoo, that actual Yahoo can do it also. They do have some kind of a.
No, the ones that I do on Yahoo, they go through League Safe as well.
Right. And Doug, I understand that you use PayPal to pay in or out if you're paying another person, but if you're paying a company using PayPal, then they're going to take a cut, just like a credret card.
I would think it's worth looking into. Yeah, it's worth
looking into. But it's back to the bylaws and these things. Again, we're doing it so you don't have to. Especially
give you all the details.
Now, again, it's back to what we said earlier. If this is a first time league and it's only $10, who cares either? If it's $20, it probably doesn't matter. And maybe even $50, because what's that? $600, but you're going to be, trusting somebody to just have $1,200 laying around, or trusting that it, and again, trust even the right word. It's just why leave that up for an issue? If there's a good service out there and it's free, I think it's worth looking into, and we'll definitely look into that and see what the options are. I know Cha has been doing a long time. This is the first league I've ever been in him in baseball. It's $100 league, and I PayPal'd him $100 and didn't think twice.
Right.
I mean, Cha, I'm assuming, he's even said a few times, if he dies, his wife knows to pay out. Meaning that part, she even knows. I know you're going to be really upset I'm gone, but damn it, make sure you pay out the fantasy league.
Right. Yeah.
And again, it's $100 league, and there's 12 or 14 teams. So, there's a little bit of money laying there. So, all right. That was something else. I just had a little note figuring we'd talk about at the end, but since we ran out of time tonight. So next week is definitely scoring and only scoring.
Yes.
And the more I look at it, I don't think scoring is actually as complicated as some of the other stuff, because most of the good sites have it pretty much defaulted pretty well.
I think so.
There's just a few things you want to double check and all that. So we'll get into that. And it'll be fun. So, now that being said, I should say that would be when we get to part 6. This is part 5. There is a chance. I have the word out there, and I'm waiting for some information coming back. But there is a chance that we could have a Washington Redskin lineman back on the show.
Okay.
Because obviously right now he's in town. They have a little bit of a lull right now.
Right.
He'll obviously be going to training camp, in a few weeks, and then obviously he'll be busy. And then Wesley also has his golf outing coming out the first week of July.
Right.
We're trying to work it out to where he can come on and we can talk about the golf outing, and what's going on there. He's already got quite a few prizes. And I'll throw it out there. People in the chat room, anybody's, works for a company that's willing to do a donation or something to a good cause where they can give something away, or sponsor a hole or sponsor a team or a player. You can contact me in the chat room or email me. Wesley's already said NBC Sports are going to be there to,
Really?
I don't think they're televising it, but I think they're following him and they're going to be there for, reasons, but there is going to be some film crew people there.
Wow.
It is July the 6th here in Ohio, Springfield. I don't know. People in the chat room interested in playing, let me know. But it's for his Brave Breeds organization, raise money for dogs, which also got hit with the tornadoes back in the day. So they're a little behind right now. Anyway, it's $80 a person. If you want to golf, that includes a dinner, food, and all that kind of stuff, your cart, your golf. And they're going to have other things, they're going to have drawings and raffles and all kinds of stuff. Sounds like a neat idea, but I know he's still working on getting more teams and more people. And that's why we're saying we're trying to decide if still next week coming on would be enough time to get him on and still maybe make a difference. And even if it's not to get players anymore, if the registration has to be in already, but at least maybe still could, donations or awareness or volunteers. I'm sure most of those kind of things can use volunteers for holes or for drawings or the raffle or whatever. So there's a chance that next week's show, we don't talk about the league settings, that hopefully maybe we get Wes on and talk about spring training and OTAs and, yeah, I agree. I'm willing to do that. So we still have enough weeks before the season starts that we'll get it. We'll get our league down. We'll get in there. We obviously got to get done in time to get our trophy ordered. So we have something to send to Hawaii. So
yes.
All right. Chris, again, I always have fun. We do this for the people. We do this for the people, Chris.
Well, yeah, we are men of the people.
We are.
I don't think anybody would question that.
People.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I got me for Father's Day. I got me a Blackstone outdoor griddle.
Ooh.
And I've been watching videos on. Now my wife's not happy because I already have 2 Acorn grills, a big smoker, 2 regular grills, and 2 gas burners out there. But now I have a griddle, and I have a refrigerator, a freezer, and a sink. So I literally have a full kitchen.
You have a full kitchen.
Yep. I can cook completely on my deck. But a griddle, and I have a big cast iron griddle that I'll put over top of the regular grills and some of that stuff, but it's not the same. A griddle is important. I mean, if you're gonna, some fried rice, and I'm gonna dice it. I'm gonna make me an onion volcano. That's what I'm gonna work on. I am going.
Oh my goodness!
I'm gonna work at sake. I'm gonna learn to flip shrimp into people's mouths.
Okay.
And do a flaming volcano. That is my goal. Not to win fantasy sports. Anybody can do that.
Do a flaming volcano. Not everybody can do that.
Do the flaming volcano. And to be honest, I think doing it outside is a good place to learn. I don't think
better than inside.
Right. Inside my kitchen's probably not the place to learn. But I did get that. I was watching. I got to season it. It's heavy. Now, this is a 22-incher. It's not the full.
Ooh. Okay.
Oh no, they have big ones.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just me and the wife. I didn't think I needed. anything. I didn't want to ask my kids to spend too much on me since all I did was raise their asses, that's all. And to be honest, I'm really not the kind of guy who asks for anything like that. Guess what? I figure if you don't know me by now, because I'm your dad and you would know what I would want, then you don't, then I didn't raise you right anyway.
Well, yeah.
So for now that they're all 21 or more, so the last few years, what do I get for Father's Day? Usually a couple of cases of Heineken and bags of candy. So they at least, that's close. They at least know
they're on the right track.
I don't think we can go wrong here. But at the same time, that is stuff I will buy myself.
Right.
There's something about getting. So this was a year where Dick's Sporting Goods had a page and they showed these 2 grills. And I just said, I don't normally ask, but if anyone needs an idea for Father's Day and y'all want to go in, Dad, there you go. Grill, and they all looked at the same thing. You got like 9 grills out there, but I don't have a gas griddle. I'm just saying. So that's what I got. What did you get anything? Did you get any smoking or anything? What'd you do for Father's Day?
We stayed at the house. The family cooked. My parents came over, so me and my dad, and then
you didn't have to cook. See, my family was upset I didn't cook. My family planned. My family planned nothing. Family planned nothing. And about 1:30 in the afternoon, my daughter texts me and goes, "Well, we're done at Colby's, Dad. We want to come over. What are you guys doing for dinner?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, it's Father's Day. I'm not doing shit for dinner." Yeah. Well, normally you cook and blah, blah. I said, well, when you guys lived at home, I didn't have a choice. Now it's just me and your mom. So we ended up, unfortunately, they said, well, we'll go to the local bar here and buy you dinner. Well, they were closed for Father's Day. So we had to we just ended up at Buffalo Wild Wings, which isn't the best. I wasn't cooking. That was the only good part.
Exactly. So it's all right then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we stayed at the house.
And the good thing about that, and one of my reasons I picked that place is at least I had the TV so I could watch the golf and some baseball. So, but I did find it funny because there's a couple of videos because it's the truth. And I know fathers aren't allowed to say this out loud, but there are videos and fathers. I saw a video where they're talking about where truly for Father's Day, dads really do like the idea of, I would really like if you just all left me alone for the day. I would love to go golfing without you. I would love to go fishing without you. Yep. I mean, dads think that way, and believe it or not, we would probably appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mothers, it's the opposite. And unfortunately,
all about family.
Yeah, all about, no, I want my kids here. I want everybody here. I want kids here. The whole thing, So, but the problem is women don't allow us to think the way we want to think. They think Father's Day is what they want it to be, which is it's Father's Day. The kids all have to come over here and see you. No, they don't.
No.
They could send me a card. The mail, they could send me an email. I'd be fine. But I'm just saying, I thought it was, I'm just saying, as you get older a little bit, it's like, you know what? Father's Day would be really good if y'all left me alone. I could watch golf.
Yeah. So I just want to sit here, have a beer.
Because every Sunday I cook for my kids anyway. So it's not like we don't see them.
Yeah.
So give me a day off. But instead I got a griddle. And now I have to prepare. I got to prepare. I have to season it. Oh, it's heavy cast iron thing.
Oh, yeah. That thing's playing a ton.
I have to season it. I'm telling you. An onion volcano.
All right, it's going to happen.
Chris Allen, where can we find you? What are you working on?
You can find me on Twitter at Chris Allen FFWX, and got a few irons in the fire. Fantrax just released a piece over there on fantasy football draft strategy. Go and check that out. Over at 444, have a profile piece out on N'Keal Harry. That one dropped, I believe, last week. So go ahead and check that one out. And then on my other show,
like it's a damn Lady Gaga album,
right?
It was an article 3 paragraphs long. That's you're dropping
like 1,500 words. It's a little bit longer than like 3 paragraphs.
Like a Lady Gaga album. Chris is dropping an article today, bitches.
Yes, sir. And but then the last thing is on my other podcast, the Dynasty Owners Manual. We're starting a positional series, and we're looking at film evaluation and then also the evolution of the position itself. So we did wide receivers last night. And with wide receivers, we actually had the chance to sit down with Matt Harmon, the creator of Reception Perception.
Yep.
And we talked to him last night for about an hour and 15 minutes about wide receiver traits, route running, actually pulled up some film, did some cut-ups, and he kind of walked us through his process, the things that he sees and things of that nature. Tonight we did quarterbacks, and so we did quarterbacks with Mark Schofield. He writes for the Rookie Scouting Portfolio with Matt Waldman. He does a ton of stuff with Matt Waldman. So we went through kind of the different things that he looks at when evaluating quarterbacks. We talked about Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. I mean, all that kind of stuff. The schematics, the X's and O's. So that's what we're kind of looking at.
I'm glad you're finally out there.
Mm-hmm. We're out here, man.
I'm glad you're out there, Chris.
So that's what we've got. So that should be coming out here within the next week or so. I just got to sit down and edit the podcast, but that's what we got going on. So definitely check all that stuff out.
Right. Well, follow Chris at Chris Allen FFWX.
Yes, sir.
And that stands for Fantasy Football Weather Expert. Just so people know. I mean,
something like that.
I'm going with it. I made it up, I guess. That's what I'm going with.
That's fine.
So FX just stands for weather?
Yeah, WX. That's just the abbreviation.
No, if you're going to have expert, I'm going with expert. The weather expert.
All right, we'll go with that then.
All right. You can find me. Oh, I'm everywhere. On Twitter at a fantasy fan. Email just a fantasy fan at gmail.com. And, if you have any information or you want to put any tidbits in our fantasy league settings, let us know, because we are winding down. We're winding down on this series.
Mm-hmm.
It's been interesting. We've had fun. Chris, Lenny Melnick, FantasySports.com, Legend Sports Network. I don't know if Lenny Andrew is out there still. I know Lenny hasn't been on this week because he's been out of town. I'd be curious if he's going to be on tomorrow at 9. But it doesn't matter. 9 o'clock, they'll be talking baseball. And I need some baseball help right now. So I'll be okay. But thanks for coming out. We'll be back next Wednesday. And like I said, maybe we'll have a special guest or we're going to get into scoring. One or the other, Chris. We're one or the other.
All right.
Again, thanks for everybody showing up. Chris, see you next Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Say goodnight.
Mm-hmm.
This has been Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. And to keep your fantasies going, follow us at justafantasyfan.com. Say goodnight. Good night.